Thanks for joining us on our comic book coffee break. I'm Nick Gunning.
And I'm Eric Mickles.
That's right. That's right. This is part 2 of Giant Size Annual number 4, and I am drinking classic Hills Brothers coffee in a mug that I got from an elderly aunt and uncle, and it says, "I'd rather be hibernating." It's ironic because I can't take naps. I'm terrible at it.
Are you? I don't think I knew that.
No,
I mean, I know
can't do
you
it.
don't take naps because you're, 1, always working, and 2, always a parent.
I can't. Guilty as charged, but no, I am bad at taking naps. Sleeping on planes and cars, all that stuff, not good at. So, for the purpose of this mug only, I'd rather be hibernating. You drinking anything good? What did I see there? I saw a tumbler. Oh, that's a
yeah.
Look at you.
What am I at here? This is a
giant,
one of those
daily water bottle things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely gets like 55 ounces, 77 ounces. So it's a 2-liter.
Yeah. I would be going pee 77 times.
Yeah, well, I don't want to talk about it, but that is the case.
Okay, well, if you don't want to talk about that, let's talk comics. We pretty much covered DC, and I crept a little into non-Big 2. Let's stick with non-Big 2. What did you read outside of the regular old Marvel DC world?
Oh, nothing that really spoke to me.
Wow.
I was double checking the stuff I read this year. Okay. I know, because Hoopla is great for that kind of stuff.
It is. It sure is. Yeah.
I read Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky's Sex Criminals.
Oh,
which fine, but I don't really get the hype around it. It's just kind of like a one-note joke.
Yeah.
For however many issues it is. So it didn't really land.
That's no good.
Well, this is also the year I wasn't working in a library.
Yeah. It's catching up with you.
Yeah.
My son is reading the Jughead run by Chip Zdarsky and Ryan North and stuff. And so just every once in a while from the other room, I hear him break out in laughter. And it's because of old Jughead. He loves those hamburgers. He loves them.
They do make fun of those in Sex Criminals. They do like some
rude.
It's where the writers are talking.
Okay.
No, they're talking to each other, and Chip Zdarsky says something like, "Oh, sorry, Matt, gotta go. The Jughead money just came in."
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Hey, you know what? You mentioned Hoopla, and I'll tell you one that I read on Hoopla, and I went the distance. I read the classic, the first. I don't even know how it breaks down. I read it into 3 sets, but this is Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples' Saga, which I have never read before, and I read them in those massive, the big hardcovers, the first, whatever it is, 50-plus issues before the big long break. And I know it's now resumed, and I have not picked up the resuming thing, but I don't know how I slept on this one for the last, long time, 10 years, I don't know. It's good stuff. You like this, right? You read it?
I did like it, and I did read it. I might have warned you off of it just because there's some gross stuff in it, and I didn't know if you could handle it.
That's true. There's a lot of sex and violence and weird sex and violence. So even so.
Yeah, I do like it. I have not returned since the break, though. It was just one of those breaks that was just so long, and I was like, I don't know if I've got it in me.
Yeah. I thought about, right when I finished that 3rd compendium or whatever they're calling them, the rest is on Hoopla, and I was like, oh, I should just keep going, but I didn't. So who knows? Maybe I'll take a long break like them.
I mean, it's good, and it's one of the most popular non-superhero stuff in a long time. I can't really think of anything that's come out since. That had that kind of internet impact.
I feel like Paper Girls had its moment, but not to the same heights.
Yeah, maybe. I know Something is Killing the Children was doing pretty well.
Okay.
I haven't, but you liked it. You liked the 50-ish. I mean, you read the whole...
No, I did. I mean, I feel like it is weird. It is... it's unusual. Even the character designs are very unusual, and they don't even feel like if you saw just here's a set of character designs, here's another set of character designs, I don't think your mind would naturally assume, oh, these are from the same thing. And sometimes when that happens, it really doesn't click. But I felt like something about the internal structure of this world held together, even with a lot of stories going on, a lot of points of view you're seeing, and some very atypical characters.
Mhm.
I don't know. I thought it really worked, and I get why it was such a phenomenon. You know what? I talked myself into it. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to go back and read more.
There you go.
I read another off-grid one here, and that's this is not going to surprise you, but it's Green Hornet. Green Hornet
Mm.
Skylights by Scott Lobdell, who I've read a lot of his. He did like Generation X and Red Hood and the Outlaws.
Yeah, he was the X-Men writer with Fabian Nicieza for,
Yeah.
the first half of the 90s.
Yeah.
Really.
So this is a recent thing, and it's funny. This was in our library for a long time, and I was like, oh, I should read that sometime. But the cover is very like serious and edgy, and I was like, eh. And finally, I picked it up, and the inside, the color is all shades of green, and it's a very Darwin Cook-esque visual. And I've never seen Green Hornet represented in that way, and the world represented in that way, and the shades of green I felt like really worked. It's just a one-off. It's just a one and done thing, but it really stood out to me and was one of my favorite Green Hornet things that I've read. And as you know, I've read a lot of them. So
you've read more Green Hornet than most people I know.
Probably.
Green Hornet writers.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. All right. So you stayed on the beaten path this time. So tell me a little bit about.
Well, no, I did finish. I did finish Berserker by Keanu Reeves and Matt Kindt.
Yes.
So volume 3. So it's a 12-issue series. So they were really stretching that out with trade paperbacks there.
Okay. Oh yeah.
But yeah, so this is issues 9 through 12, and they were really trying to wrap it up as fast as they could. Like it just reads very, very quick.
We gotta be done. We gotta be done.
Yeah. So I definitely enjoyed it earlier on in the first volume, probably more than the rest.
Okay.
It's just a very fast ending, but we'll see what comes. I think it's supposed to be a Netflix movie with Mr. Keanu Reeves in the title role. So, good on him.
Okay.
I'm sure sitting down to read it 1 through 12, the pacing of this ending would feel a little better. But
yeah. Sometimes
it did seem like, I guess I got to the third volume, like, it's over. Okay. All right.
Well, what about Marvel? What was your main focus in the Marvel world this time around?
Rereading was the main focus. I did a lot of X-Men Krakoa era stuff. I'm still not done.
Okay.
It's probably the fact that there were too many titles during this period.
Yeah.
So what I've taken out of Krakoa is that I absolutely freaking loved Hellions.
I remember that. That was a good time.
By Zeb Wells.
Yes.
And you know what? I should say it's not just the fact that Zeb Wells was writing. It was the artist, Roge Antonio, Zé Carlos, Steven Segovia. I mean, the art in Hellions was... It just... Like, the acting in their art is really... The face acting in the art is really good. There's just these great moments with these oddball... Like, Orphan Nanny and Orphan Maker become characters that you want to keep reading about, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. And after reading it, I was really like, oh, I just want more of this. But it's only like 18 issues, and it definitely kind of felt like it got to an ending.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I wish... Zeb Wells is pretty much a Marvel exclusive, but I do wish he would take on the Suicide Squad.
Oh.
After doing this, because that's what it felt like. It felt like an X-Men-y Suicide Squad.
Okay.
And you know what? This is one of those... This is maybe the only series in this whole Krakoa era that I thought if they make a Hellions omnibus, I might get it. Just because it's just really good.
Okay.
After Hellions, I guess I would say I enjoyed X-Men Red for the most part, but then Magneto's not in it going forward, and it's another one where it's just like, here's a different story, here's a different story, here's a different story, and it never really... I mean, I haven't finished the series, but I haven't seen where it's gone, but Magneto has some great moments in it. And so now I'm at the Krakoa part right before the whole fall stuff starts to happen, right before the second Hellfire Gala. But I do have to say, out of everything from the Krakoa era, Kieran Gillen, he did the Sins of Sinister storyline, and that was great. I love that. It's kind of an alternate reality thing that keeps going from main continuity, and some of the books became other titles, kind of like Age of Apocalypse did. So Immortal X-Men became Immoral X-Men, X-Men Red became Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants. But it just was a ridiculous sci-fi story with Sinister at the heart, and I had a really good time with this.
Okay.
Did you read any Krakoa?
No, I haven't. Well, I've read some things that touch on Krakoa, where I'm like, okay, Krakoa stuff is happening, but I haven't like gotten there to that point yet. I am also mired though in an X-Men era that has like 50 different titles at once. I'm in like the X-Men Gold, X-Men Blue, All New Wolverine, Old Man Logan, Weapon X era, and it just feels. I don't know. I mean, there's just so much going on, and there's so many characters, and it just feels like, oh, there's this weird little like partial event, and I don't know. I never can quite latch on to any of them. I found there was one story in there about Jean Grey, the Phoenix Resurrection by Matthew Rosenberg, that I actually you didn't like it. See, I really liked that one. Well, I just felt like it was kind of a nice break in all of the chaos around it. And it's like, Jean being resurrected is nothing new in the X-Men world. But I really thought the way they handled it, where it's like she has this parallel life and she's kind of like, it was kind of like the Thor Ragnarok thing that we had read together forever ago, where it's like almost she's trapped in this other persona and has to like realize who she is and come out. I don't know. I really liked it. I really liked the art, and I liked what it had to say about Jean, and I think that's kind of what launches X-Men Red, isn't it? After that,
there's the Jean Grey X-Men team, X-Men Red, that you're talking about. X-Men Red in the Krakoa is when they
it's different.
Set on Mars. Yeah, it's a different type of story. But that's different. I didn't love Resurrection of Jean Grey, right?
I think it's just Phoenix Resurrection.
Phoenix Resurrection. So I didn't love that, but I did end up really liking the X-Men Red series that came after. It didn't last long, but I had a good time with that. It was a good Cassandra Nova book, and it had Gabby, X-23's little clone sister. It has some fun moments with her. It had a fun moment with Gambit and Thor, of all characters, just kind of palling for a bit.
That's funny.
So,
yeah, it did leave me excited for X-Men Red because I liked where it placed people.
That was an era where they were trying to get back on track with like the X-Men have a story that's connecting, but it never really came together. So I did like X-Men Blue during that era, but that's because it was kind of a sequel series to the Magneto solo series that Cullen Bunn had written. So I liked the Magneto moments in there.
Okay. What else made your Marvel list?
Well, the last X-Men thing I have is it might be the best thing to come out of the Krakoa era. It's X-Men 92, House of 92.
Oh, I don't even know what that
House
is.
of XCII. It's the X-Men 92 cartoon having its own Krakoa era.
Oh.
And it's so fun. It's one of those things that uses that internet phrase. It understood the assignment completely. It just understood. There are people who are like, oh, this was lame and stuff. I'm like, you just don't get it. It's the 90s cartoon in all its... And this isn't like X-Men 97, where it's like, yeah, it's the X-Men cartoon, but it's now for adults and it's blood. This is the X-Men cartoon still in its Saturday morning cartoon state, doing its own Krakoa, except... instead of Moira McTaggart going through having the lives and leading people to Krakoa, it's Jubilee. And it's because it's using the X-Men cartoon continuity. It's instead of Arakko that split from Krakoa, it's Archon, which was that lame two-parter episode in the later seasons.
Yeah.
And so there's bits of that and where Apocalypse goes on, and it's so funny, and it's so funny seeing like the Krakoa designs that fit in the 90s one. It just got it.
That does sound fun. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I was just looking for like some X-Men kind of one-shot stuff.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, it landed. I had a good time with it.
I'm looking at it now. That is hilarious.
One of the things I reread this year is I hadn't read Kurt Busiek's Thunderbolts series ever.
Oh, okay.
The first time I picked up a Thunderbolts comic was when Fabian Nicieza took over with the new Thunderbolts series. This was right before like House of M, so the disassembled era. And so I knew the Thunderbolts starting there, and then I had followed them on. But Kurt Busiek is the one who created them and all of that. So I just started from the beginning because the whole series is on the Marvel Unlimited app. And that's a long series to get through because if you're looking at, say, like an omnibus form, volume 1 is the entire Kurt Busiek run, and then Fabian Nicieza takes over, and then there's the third volume where Fabian Nicieza is continuing with the new Thunderbolts theme, and I really there is a difference in their writing styles and their plotting styles and stuff, but Kurt Busiek's Thunderbolts is really good, but I think you have to be in the right headspace for it because he's like an old school comic book storyteller in a lot of ways.
Okay.
With characterization stuff, but the more the series went on, the better it got, and then Nicieza, I feel like he steered it pretty well. In the new Thunderbolts era, it had some ups and downs, but I enjoyed some of the issues a lot more than I did the first time around. But because it delves, that later stuff delves with like the Game Master and the Squadron Supreme guys.
Oh right, sure, yeah,
like Darkhawk, and I just remember reading that as a teenager and being like, I have no idea what's going on. And now I'm like, oh yeah, sure, okay. So, like, that was how many issues of the Thunderbolts, and then I just kept going and read through when Warren Ellis takes over post Civil War, where it's like Bullseye and Venom, and it's the Norman Osborn one. Okay, and then that series they go off to become the Dark Avengers, so the Thunderbolts become. When I first read it, it was a very like B team or even C-listers villains. You got like Headmaster and Paladin or somebody. But the point is, when I first read that series, I was like, this is crap. And reading it this time, I thought it was pretty good.
You were back in.
Worked.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went through and reread Jeff Parker's Thunderbolts run, which is a favorite one of mine. That's the Luke Cage led one, and then they go back in time, and it's fun because you've got characters like Crossbones and Ghost and Juggernaut and Man-Thing. You got characters that want to be there and characters that don't want to be there, but then you get a bunch of them going back in time because they tried to escape, but they accidentally got sent back in time, and now they're like jumping forward, and there's just fun moments with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like, they're basically being led by Moonstone to try to get forward. And so you got these characters, these goofy villain characters, just, traveling through time, meeting Captain America and Namor when they were the
hip, young, fresh on the street.
Yeah. Whatever what were they called?
Defenders.
Invaders, whatever it was. Yeah. It was, So that was a lot of fun.
I haven't read a ton of Thunderbolts, but the 2016 series I liked quite a bit. That was Jim Zub who wrote that. I was reading that earlier in 2024, actually. But the first Thunderbolts I ever read was back when I was reading the Ed McGuinness Hulk, Red Hulk stuff. And that just kind of kept going. And then there was a Thunderbolt series that was kind of led by Red Hulk. I think Elektra's on there. It's terrible. Yep. It was like
it was bad.
It worst. Was bad. And I don't know. I was like, oh, this will be fun. I went in thinking it was going to be this great time, and it was like the worst thing I've ever read. So, hit and miss with the Thunderbolts in my past.
Yeah. So the one you read, that's the one that Bucky's leading, but it is the classic team. Yeah. As opposed to what this movie is.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But before I switch over to you, I then read Old Man Hawkeye, which is a 12-issue series where Hawkeye, right before Old Man Logan, is going around taking out the Thunderbolts because a lot of them were the villains that rose up during that
Okay.
storyline. And so Hawkeye comes in during Kurt Busiek's run to take over the Thunderbolts and lead them when they're on the run, when Baron Zemo's out. And so that's where the connection is. He trusted them, he was ready, and they betrayed, and they all basically stabbed him in the back that day. So he's going out after them one by one.
Yeah.
And it was better than it should have been. You get some old man Hawkeye with, I guess, middle-aged Kate Bishop stuff in it.
Okay. There's an Old Man Quill series too now.
I have not read that one.
No, I haven't read it either.
So I was just in the mood for like a villainy and post-apocalyptic-y thing.
Well, it sounds like you made the right choice.
And so this is skippable if all you care about is Old Man Logan, but it really was better than it should have been. I enjoyed it.
Nice. One of the things that I really got into this past year was Rainbow Rowell's She-Hulk. Have you read any of this?
No, I can't remember where I am with She-Hulk.
It's fun. I had pretty much read every She-Hulk thing up to this point. I mean, I still have the She-Hulk #1, John Byrne, that I got like in a comic book store when I was a little kid. So I've always loved She-Hulk, and Rainbow Rowell, I'm a fan of her novels anyway, but she just nails the characterization of She-Hulk just right. It's funny. Is a lot of Jack of Hearts in this, who's a pretty obscure Marvel character.
You got her to sign
who always cracks me
copy,
up,
right?
Yes. Yeah, I was at the PLA conference for libraries, and Rainbow Rowell was one of the guests, and she afterwards, you could go through and get her new book signed and everything. So I brought another one, and I was like, "Will you sign this too?" But I asked her, I was like, Jack of Hearts is such an obscure character. Like, did you want Jack of Hearts, or was Marvel like, use Jack of Hearts? And she was like, no, I needed Jack of Hearts in there. And we had this whole conversation about his costume and what a kooky character he is and how he fit in this world so well. But it's not a long run. I mean, it's maybe 3, maybe 4 volumes, and it is just a really, really tight, really funny She-Hulk run, and I wish there was more of it, but that's definitely top of my list here for 2024.
Who would have thought that you needed the author of Attachments to get you your Jack of Hearts?
I know.
Finally.
I know. Yep. It finally happened, though. Thank you, Rainbow Rowell. Yeah.
Last She-Hulk series I read was the Mariko Tamaki series.
I feel like that wasn't great. Am I remembering that right?
I remember liking the first volume, and then that's the one where she's kind of out of control. I want to say that's post Civil War II.
It's more like Savage She-Hulk, right? Like the old school.
Yeah. So I think maybe the Rainbow Rowell one is where I would be next.
Yeah. Pick it up. You will not be disappointed. I think it's all collected now, and it's certainly all on the app.
Nice.
So
yeah.
What other Marvel stuff are you doing?
During that, I want something kind of post-apocalyptic. I want something action-y. I read Peter David had done a Maestro series.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a thing that's been going on where like they have these classic writers come in and write stuff like they're missing episodes from their things. They've been doing that a lot. I mean, you got me Peter David doing a Grey Hulk.
Joe Fixit. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And that was a 5-issue thing. This is 3 5-issue stories. And I don't think I really realized they were all connected. And it's a prequel. It's all a prequel to the Future Imperfect. So you're following basically the Hulk Maestro from when he first like wakes up in the new post-apocalyptic that we experience in Future Imperfect. So like each 5 issues is with him. He becomes the villain pretty quick in the first series. So it's just him slowly cutting through the remaining heroes and villains that are in his way. It also, it came out after Immortal Hulk. So he's just using that as well. He's like, also, I'm immortal now too. So and then so really
that was a gross book, Immortal Hulk.
Yeah. So really you would read these 3 and then Future Imperfect.
Okay, I see.
So I don't know if I actually haven't looked to see, because Future Imperfect is just 2 issues.
Yeah, it's small.
So I don't know if their plan is to, maybe that's why they had him do it. They're like, oh, do it, and then we can reissue
Oh
the whole
yeah,
Maestro
not a
series
bad
thing
idea.
there.
Not a bad
The
idea.
thing is, the art is much more modern in these three, and then you read Future Imperfect, and it's George Perez who's great, but it's an older style
Yeah, it's
and
not that time for sure. Hmm.
90s Hulk as
Yeah.
well. And so it's kind of like when you watch the Star Wars prequels and then you go to A New Hope, you go from
Yeah.
everything is blue screen to a puppet going wah, wah,
Yeah.
and yeah. But you know what? I didn't hate them. They were a fun time. I'm
Okay.
glad he's done doing them. It was definitely unnecessary, but
Yeah.
Peter David didn't phone it in.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's a good time of smashing.
Sure. That's what Hulk does. I feel like I haven't read Hulk in a while. There was that like Smastronaut Hulk run that started, and I read
I
that, but
read
I
those first 6 issues and then never picked it up again.
no, because I
That's
think
over
we were
now. That run is
we were
done.
too close. That's it. It was like we were too
Yeah,
close to reading those. Like those, hadn't come out that much yet. But
yeah.
one that kind of surprised me. I heard a lot of good things about it, but I read Black Bolt by Saladin Ahmed, where he like wakes up in a prison and nobody knows like who he is or that he's the king of the Inhumans or anything like that. And it's
All
kind of
right,
like a
sounds like the general American audience.
yeah, yeah, true. Got him, got him. Have you read this?
No, I have not read a
Okay.
single like Black Bolt solo.
No, no. I mean, this is the only one that I'd read, and I think I
Yeah.
just was kind of in the timeline. Something happened, and I was like, "Oh, I should read that Black Bolt series." But it's really good. I mean, I don't think you need to.
Hmm.
I think you could pick it up as yes, it's in the Inhumans, but I don't really even think that information is necessary. I think you could read it like just a standalone thing, like a king wakes up in a prison, and so like the community and relationships that are forged and sort of trying to get back, and you ultimately are seeing what's going on with the Inhumans and stuff. So I read that, and there was a companion series that was showing what the Inhumans were up to while this was happening, like called like the Royals or
Mm-hmm.
something. Yeah, Royals. And I was like, oh, I should read that too. And it's terrible. So it's like reading them together was not the way to go. And I've never really been a big Inhumans fan. So not that I think anybody is, but Black Bolt was definitely good and worth the time. So yeah, high on my list this year.
Were they in that Fantastic Four show we watched?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't think so. No.
Yeah. All right.
No. Yeah.
Um.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Inhumans,
Okay.
oh, I already talked about this because we talked about Kirby. I had read Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's
Yes. Fantastic Four.
um,
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, but it's interesting because Medusa shows up
Oh.
long before the Inhumans, and she's
Oh,
part of
really?
the Frightful Four or whatever they're called, where it's like the Wizard. Maybe it was
Okay.
Sandman. They were trying to make four villains for the Fantastic Four, and Medusa's there. And it's not until much later that she's like, also, I'm the queen of the Inhumans, and this is my
Wow.
husband to be Black Bolt and everything. So I don't know if maybe that was always the plan, or Jack Kirby then came up with the Inhumans and was like, oh, let's bring Medusa in. So
I feel like Jack Kirby had the Inhumans in his back pocket, and we're
yeah.
letting them come in slowly. That would be my guess.
Hmm.
But interesting. I didn't realize she predated the others. You did. I mean, when our first episode when we got into this a little bit, you did really make me want to go back and read those. So
Yeah.
I
I
just
mean,
need to
they're
do it.
fun. In that rereading time, I've been going through old Daredevil because, as you know, he's one of my favorite characters,
I know it all too well. Yeah.
like, period. But I've never read his pre Frank Miller stuff. I mean, I did. I read like the two Black and White Essentials, but that was forever
Okay.
ago, and I had
Yeah.
forgotten most of it. So I picked it up again and have been reading through it. And now I'm like maybe 20 issues away from when Frank Miller takes over. But I tell you what, unless you're a a diehard Daredevil fan,
Which you are.
it's hard to get through these. Like Stan Lee, I don't know, he really does seem just like the B side of Spider-Man. Just, not as cool.
Yeah.
Like he's
I
not
read that first Daredevil, like when Marvel was doing the Marvel Masterworks. I read that. So
yeah,
I have read
it's
some.
not it's not a lot of fun. the villains are pretty lame and usually borrowed. Like Electro
Yeah.
is issue 2. Um, and the art keeps changing, and it's just like Matt is usually just kind of a jerk. And the main story that Stan Lee is focusing on is the love triangle between, Daredevil, or Matt Murdock and Foggy and Karen, and it's so boring because they're all just kind of bland characters. So it does pick up, not necessarily when Roy Thomas takes over, but when Gene Colan takes over as the artist, because suddenly you get a more stable artist and the characterization never changes in terms of the writing, but like Gene Colan just gave like Karen so much more personality.
I see.
Just doing these little things. You might have a scene that Stan Lee writes where Karen is like, "Oh, you think you're so smart, Matt Murdock," and Matt Murdock's like, "What do I do?" But Gene Colan draws it with like by a filing cabinet, and one of the filing cabinet doors are over, and Karen's leaning on one with her hand, and it's just these little bits of action that you weren't getting that Gene Colan did, and it's so noticeable. But I tell you what, as other writers come and take over, it just gets like, what is this series? Like all the bits where like Black Widow is in the title and stuff, and he's out in San Francisco, and he's fighting all these weird villains that just you'll never see again. There was one, the Jester. He fights the Jester, and that was a fun couple of issues, and that seemed like a villain who could have stuck around, but also doesn't.
Maybe the new Daredevil series will come back, live action.
And then when Bullseye finally does show up, you get it. You get why he sticks around for so long. But it takes, 100-something issues to get to a villain that you feel like is gonna stick like that. And also I think I mentioned this as well. I reread at least up to like issue 104 of Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
So the death of Captain Stacy is
spoiler alert
where it goes. So that's and I got the same thing about like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. It's just night and day when Steve Ditko leaves. Like John Romita is a great artist, but the thing that you're losing is that when Steve Ditko's there, like all the villains you think about when you think about a Spider-Man villain are in that run. And then when he leaves, you get Rhino and the Shocker.
Okay.
And Kingpin. And like that's it. And Kingpin, he's fine, but it's just the fact that the other, Ditko's run, you're getting Goblin, and like the Green Goblin storyline still is a lot of fun, and you're getting Doc Ock and Electro and Mysterio, and like Ditko's weird art is just nailing, and like Kraven of all I was kind of surprised. I'm like, these Kraven stories are pretty good back then.
They should make a movie about it, don't you think? Wouldn't that be great?
Love that, wouldn't you? And everything that you think about when you think about Spider-Man is really in that Stan Lee, Steve Ditko era. Like, it's classic it's so, there's like an issue right after where he finds some aliens, and it's kind of silly and doesn't work, but almost everything else is just ready out of the box with Spider-Man. Everything is just set up. All the drama, Gwen Stacy, you kind of get when she's first introduced, you're like, now I get it. Whereas when Ditko leaves, she kind of becomes more of that wilting flower.
Okay.
Kind of like, I just love him and everything. Whereas when Ditko's there, she's a lot more bold. And like her attraction to Peter starts because Peter never seems to notice her. And she's like, but I'm Gwen Stacy. And it's a lot more, and that, that's more fun. And then it's actually like when Mary Jane shows up the first time, you're like, geez, what does anybody see in this wackadoo? She's crazy. And then they give her the worst haircut.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is great stuff. I guess Ditko just became like an angry guy. And like, you can tell because there's scenes where like Peter Parker's annoyed with college protesters, and so it's just grumpy old man Ditko writing
Funny.
this stuff, and Stan has to be like, ha, sure. So yeah, you've read this era of Spider-Man, right? The original era.
Yeah, I've read quite a bit of it. Yeah. I mean, it is. You said it's baked in from the beginning, and there's so much. The sustained, like, personal side of it was something like DC just was not interested in doing in this era. So when you go back and read the Spider-Man of those times, and he's like, has storylines like he's got to pay his rent, which is like happening over multiple issues and stuff. That just wasn't present in most of the DC run. So it distinguishes itself very quickly.
When I was a teenager and just getting into comics, my library had Essential X-Men, maybe like 1 and 2, and they had like the first couple of Amazing Spider-Man ones, and that's how I got. Those were like the first Spider-Man comics I had read, and I just remember they still held up for me, at least as a teenager, and it was nice, like seeing all the, like when the Lizard shows up, when the Scorpion shows up, and everything.
They're wordy. They're definitely wordy. I'll tell you that.
They are wordy.
Do not rely on, if you can express an emotion with just the art, the old comics are like, no. Actually, I'm upset about this because, and then,
You can tell where Stan Lee saw a scene of quiet emotion. And he's like, I'm going to add in you sure seem quiet and full of emotion, Peter.
Exactly.
I'll say, I think when I read them first as the Essentials, they actually do kind of benefit from being in black and white, because older comics like this, you get a lot of like yellow backgrounds.
I like that, though. I like that.
They're like, I'm in a purple room. I'm in a yellow room.
Yeah.
And in the black and white one, you have kind of an imagination. You're like, wow, I wonder, this must look like a normal room. And you get there. And
I would not. There's a lot, like the early Captain Americas have a lot of that too. And I like it. I mean, I think that's a cool aesthetic. So
yeah.
Disagree.
Well, the worst, I mean, it's much better than, I was reading some of Walt Simonson's Thor, and the issues they put on the Marvel Unlimited app are based off the omnibus they put at, and they were, I guess, to make them all the right size or something, they replaced the backgrounds now with like modern gradients, and it's so jarring.
Wow. No, I don't think I would like that at all.
To read something where you should be seeing Walt Simonson's like art in the background. Instead, you have like blue light, blue white. And it's just like, what is... I had to look it up. I was so surprised. It doesn't look great.
I don't want that at all.
So
I don't want that at all. Hey, we're talking about Spider-Man, and this is my time to tell you that I beat Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 5, and it was a good time. It was hard. There were a couple of places where some of the Venom fights, I was like...
Well, you already find Venom scary, so...
Yeah, he's still scary. And then my son comes along behind me and plays it and just like breezes through it, and I'm like, okay, all right.
That's not us anymore up there, Apollo.
But, yeah, true. But Spider-Man 2 was a lot... Those games, the way they mess with character backstories and stuff, occasionally I find a little grating. And I don't like the voice actor who does Spider-Man. He spends a lot of time at like high emotion and screaming, "We were friends, Harry!" It's so, oh my gosh. And then to hear my son playing it again, I'm like, great, I have to relive this. But no, really good. And it was a rare game where I think I like 100%. Like I went through and did every little side mission. Even after I completed it, I was like, well, there's still a few things going on. So I did it, and it was super fun.
Is my timeline mixed up, or did you also play the Miles Morales game like in 2024 as well?
I think I did. That one's a lot shorter. So that one I went through pretty quickly. But yeah, both of those games, I mean, I haven't heard anything about a 3, but they have to, right? I mean,
probably. There's rumors. There's rumors of a Venom game. There's rumors of the Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
I think it's that same company that's making the Wolverine game.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of feels like they're building their own little Marvel-verse in the games.
They're very good. I mean, I think... Have you played any of them? Because I know some are coming to PC, so maybe this will be your time.
I think they're all on PC now.
Are they?
Maybe not Spider-Man 2. Maybe it's on its way. But I did just build myself a new computer, so I can play them.
I saw the
pictures. Run them and everything, so I will... The plan is to get to them.
Yeah. I also beat Star Trek Prodigy on my Nintendo Switch. You didn't ask, but I just wanted you to know that I did beat that game.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they have a Star Trek show that appeals to kids and they decided to cancel it. But you know what? Whatever. The game was fun. Good puzzles, good times. Star Trek Prodigy forever.
Speaking of Spider-Man and Venom,
okay,
I had wanted to. I mean, we can't speak about Venom without mentioning your wife, who is weirdly the biggest Venom fan we know.
Yes. So she and I went to see Venom: The Last Dance for our anniversary, and the place we were staying had it in IMAX 3D, and so we saw Venom in IMAX 3D, and we sit down and things start happening, and she's like, "No way, is that null?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?
It's
what
funny,
are you talking about?"
I saw Captain Marvel with her, and I know Captain Marvel's one of her favorite superheroes, like, period. And I remember her reacting to some things where, like, she would smack you on the shoulder because she was excited. And it's just weird to think she's bringing the same energy to Venom: The Last Dance.
Listen, it's the fault of Previously on X-Men because of that dark web crossover on Previously on X-Men. It sucked her into she was like, what is happening with Venom? And then she went down. I mean, she's read everything. It's crazy. I mean, not like, really early, like Todd McFarlane stuff, but everything in the modern era, she has read like all Venom all the time. So did you ever watch Last Dance, by the way?
I haven't seen Last Dance yet.
Crazy.
Sorry. I just, Kendra didn't want to go, and I was like, I'll go by myself. But every time I had a night alone, I was like, I'm just going to hang out. I'm just going to watch documentaries. It just, I become a bad person.
We did rewatch the other two Venom movies that same weekend that we went to see the new one, and one really holds up to me. Number 2, Let There Be Carnage. I mean, I'm kind of whatever about, but I love that first one, and I thought Last Dance was pretty solid. And there definitely they were hinting at more, but it seems like that's not going to happen at this point. So
we'll see after the Craven bomb,
which I have not seen.
Things,
I've not seen.
No one has.
So, what did you watch superhero wise this year, though? What's made your list here?
What were the movies that came out this year?
Deadpool and Wolverine, Venom: The Last Dance.
Oh, you know what? First, for Madam Web. I saw that in theaters.
Oh my god!
And it was awful. And the president or CEO or whatever, the guy in charge, was like, I don't understand why people didn't like this movie. I thought it was a good film. Critics just like to sit. I'm like, shut up. Don't you? It made me so angry. It's like, this movie was awful, and I'm tired.
Every line in that movie is ADR. You could feel the hands at work, just moving things around.
Just the opening bit where she's like, we're supposed to believe she's like in crazy traffic while driving the ambulance, and it keeps cutting to like the slowest moving ambulance in the most empty street I've ever seen.
I know. Or Adam Scott. He's like, I'll play Uncle Ben, and then he's in that movie. Oh my
boy. And I'm so tired of that one had a really, I mean, in the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, when they tried to get around with great power comes responsibility. When it was like, if you have power, blah blah. But Madam Web was pretty rough. When there's great responsibility, great power will follow, or something. And it's just, that was a bad thing. I liked Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought it was a little too long.
In the theater, I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Like I thought it was.
Yes, as an experience in the theater, it's fun.
Yeah, but it's also one that, like, when I was making lists, like, I didn't really put it on it because, like, if I'm ever going to watch which surely I am, but when I watch all the X-Men movies and do the Deadpool movies and stuff, like, I would watch it again, but it's definitely not one that I'm like, I can't wait to see that again. You know what I mean? I'm just
also, I know it's a comedy, so it's not but the big, like, climactic thing with the Like a Prayer song that everybody's loving and everything, it's just them holding on to one thing and screaming while the camera goes at different angles. Like, there's nothing actually happening. And, like, I have a pretty good suspension of disbelief, but there's also the sense, like, not only is nothing happening, but there's, like, nothing there in reality when they film this scene. So it just left me like, okay. I laughed at one.
I thought Jennifer Garner was cool in that movie. I was like, wait, is it possible that the Elektra movie was good? But no, I don't.
No,
I don't think so. I don't think so. But it was a good showing for her. I felt like I thought she really stood out.
out of the three Deadpool movies, I think 2 is still my favorite because it's the
I
one
agree.
that feels most like a Deadpool movie while still being funny.
Yes.
And oh, that was my other thing. The third movie did the same thing Ant-Man 3 did. It just jettisoned its supporting cast.
That's true. That is
Which
true.
and really bummed me out because I really liked Zazie Beetz as Domino.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
I
me
thought
too.
she was funny and cool at the same time. Strange.
I agree. You're talking about Zazie Beetz, and I saw her in 2 comic book movies because I watched both Joker movies. What do you think about that? I did. I'd never seen them before, and we had
Joker.
HBO Max temporarily, and I watched them both. And they're not my kind of movie, but I don't fully understand the hate that 2 is getting because it does kind of feel like one narrative thread going through both. Not movies that I would ever watch again, but it was interesting once, and I actually feel like the resolution to the Joker 2, which I know is somewhat controversial, makes the whole thing easier for me to swallow because then I don't feel so bad. Kind of, It makes it a little bit more like you can kind of feel for that character, even though he does awful things. But anyway, I did watch the Joker movies. I wondered if that would surprise you.
I mean, it does. Did you do it because you wanted to see what was going on with the second movie?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. I was intrigued.
I have not seen the second one. I probably won't.
Yeah.
I looked at the big twist ending, and I was like, "Oh yeah, all right." Well, I watched 5 seasons of Gotham.
I know. I did think of you.
Right.
I did think of you with that, but it really does make the whole things that come forward a little bit more palatable. And I
think the issue, I think the panning is that they felt like they got the wrong people as fans for the first Joker.
Oh,
and so
I
they
think
were trying to change that with this, and so then you have all the big fans of the first Joker. It's just he won an Oscar for that movie, you know?
Yeah. It is amazing the glow down, at least critically, from 1 to 2, where it's this huge Mondo success.
$1 billion Oscar winning, yeah.
Oh my gosh. The second one made $45.
Yeah. I guess that's it, which makes it feel like a small theatrical year.
True.
But again, neither one of us have seen Craven.
That's true. That could be the one to bring it home. I watched the Jokers while I had HBO Max temporarily, and I got Max because I wanted to watch The Penguin, and I thought it was great.
Okay.
I know that the Matt Reeves Batman movie didn't really do much for you, but I feel maybe you would enjoy The Penguin.
Here's my question.
Okay.
You remember the first season of the Daredevil Netflix show that we watched?
Yes.
You remember that level of violence?
Yeah.
You remember the head dripping out of the car door?
I do, yeah.
I hate that. I don't want to watch something like that. What is the violence level in this show?
I have a sixth sense for when to turn my head, so I don't know that I can fully answer that question for you, but I do feel like anything that's coming is broadcast pretty early, so I think you could do it. And honestly, Colin Farrell is great in that, and the supporting cast they put around him. Christine Melody as Falcone. I mean, she was Sophia. She was great. The way Allegiance kept changing and everything, I don't know. It was very good, and I hope they don't do more because I feel like, as a standalone piece, it was really strong beginning, middle, end. I think you dig it. I really do.
Well, I have been digging Creature Commandos, which I also started watching. During the year.
No.
So I don't know if you'll like it because it kind of feels like maybe James Gunn hurt you as a person or dated your college girlfriend. There's a level of personal.
I married my college girlfriend, so I don't think.
Okay, well then, I've been liking Creature Commandos. One of the things I like about it is the art quality, the animation quality is a big jump than what DC animation has been doing the last couple of years. Especially those direct to DVD or the direct to video ones.
The most recent batch did go for kind of a weird blocky style. Heavy lines.
It felt very cheap and everything. And I tried to watch that Batman Gotham Knight or Adventures.
I know,
but I remember thinking oh yeah, this is a cool time period and everything to do Bat, and then turning it on and the animation's still looking cheap and there's no shadow, there's no depth in any of it. It's all just so flat. And that's something that Creature Commandos doesn't have the issue with. And he's kind of doing what he did with the first Guardians of the Galaxy. He's taking characters you haven't heard of, like G.I. Robot and The Bride, and giving them fun character stuff. It's R-rated animation.
A little pervy, but I feel like. I don't know that the ladies come across so great in that. And the subtlety of him illustrating himself into the opening credits. I wondered. I didn't know.
I knew you would hate that.
I didn't know if you were liking it or not. So
I have been liking it.
No, it didn't really do much for me, but that's okay. I finished Superman and Lois this year, and it's the final season. I think they were really hamstrung. I think they had other plans and were like, oh, we only have 10 episodes and no cast. So I don't know that the final season really lands, but I still feel like that is a great version of Superman. And I wish that it was in a world where it could have continued and grown at its own pace rather than being forced into a box. I also like the Gotham Knights TV show Endgame. I love that game.
Oh, the game.
Yeah, well, there's a one-season show that's not connected to the game. It was actually a pretty good mystery, but the game was great, and that was a flop too, and I don't understand that at all.
The live servicey thing.
Yeah, I never interacted with the live service stuff, but the mission modes and everything, I just think it's really. I mean, it's nice that you can play as the whole Bat family. I think the levels are different enough. The kinds of things you do.
Who'd you play the most of?
It was a pretty even split between Batgirl and Nightwing.
Nice. That makes sense.
But yeah, no, that is definitely worth it. My wife's playing it now. She's really liking it too. So
I really have been liking My Adventures with Superman.
Oh yeah.
It's good. It's funny and still Superman-y. I really liked the Superman animated series in the 90s and still do, but this has been a lot of fun. I like this pseudo anime style it's going for.
I watched the first season and I haven't checked back into season 2, but I intend to.
I think it's weird having Jack Quaid's voice because his voice is everywhere, and so it's weird hearing Boimler from Lower Decks as Superman,
which also ended this year. Wow.
Yeah. So, but I like it. It's a lot of fun, and it's nice because it is for like a younger audience, but they are also, I mean, they're adults, as in they're like in their early 20s at most. But, it's not like, what was that Iron Man one called? Armored Adventures?
Yeah.
Where it was like 15-year-olds.
Yes. But I love that show, so I will not hear anything negative.
I know. Well, that was definitely of its time. And I know, sure. I had friends with kids who loved that show as well. Yeah. I mean, we talked about this, and I'm doing a podcast on it at the time, but I don't think we can mention the these shows and movies without mentioning X-Men 97, which also came out this year.
Yes.
So
I just did that previously on X-Men together for Nintendo.
It's really good. It's also really messy and has its plenty of problems. It benefited from being appointment television and having to sit down and watch it and then wait the next week. Yeah. Watching it all together afterwards, it hasn't really held up as much. But I mean, if they wanted to recreate the whole Saturday morning, like every Wednesday, those last 5 Wednesdays, I'd get home from work, I'd sit on the floor and I'd turn on Disney Plus to watch X-Men 97.
A lot of bang for your buck because each episode has about 40 storylines. So you're really getting,
That is, and with that show, I think the animation change is good for action, less so on the quieter scenes. But also the 90s show couldn't really do action. So there's a lot of great action, especially in that 5th episode where, the animation gets to show this fluidity, and really, really liked that. It actually, I found the show sometimes a bit too overwhelming at times. Like it was doing so much at the same time. Like I only had so many veins that adrenaline could pump through. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so like you have this Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Sentinels fight going on. It's like I did kind of feel like a teenager again, like I can't handle this. Yeah. But as an adult, that's an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, it is.
As a teen, it was cool. It makes you just want to like run and punch and everything. But as an adult, it's like, I need to sit down.
I mean, it is a mixed bag, and I hope with the season 2 that they chill. They're like, everybody just cool it. Everybody just calm down. Let's just write one story.
I don't think I played any superhero video games this year myself.
Yeah. Other than Rivals, which we talked about in part 1.
Oh, right. Yeah, Marvel Rivals. That has been... Oh, and you know what? A lot of Marvel Snap. I have been playing Marvel Snap still. Somebody asked me recently, like, oh, do you still play Marvel Snap? I'm like, all day, every day. Yeah. It's definitely...
Yeah, you're a professional at this point.
Could be listed as a problem.
Yeah. We're staging an intervention. All right. We've reached the portion of our show where I hit you with a quarter bin selection, Eric, but this is a twist, because this is more a thrift store find from my friend Nick Davis over at the ND Vision podcast.
Ridiculous.
Which I was supposed to be on for their end of year movie review, but I was so sick I couldn't do it. So sorry, ND Vision podcast. But he picked me up the Oh So Long puzzle from APC Puzzles. It's a Batman puzzle. It's art from Batman number 298. It is 3 feet long. And this was just a thrift store thing, not sealed or anything. All the pieces were there. I put this baby together. I figured out which comic it came from because it didn't tell me, and went back and like read that comic and stuff, because it's unusual imagery and stuff, but it was so cool. And it was cheap. It was like $3 or something. And there's also a Superman one. And I'm like, oh, I have to get that Superman one. These things are expensive online. If you look online,
eBay one, this vintage eBay one is $140 or best author, and it's labeled used. And this isn't something that was kept in plastic. It's like this box is filthy. You can see the tape markings and everything, and yet you can get this for $140.
Mine is in great condition. It's better than this. But no, as soon as I got it, I cleared off the coffee table because I needed the full length because it's 3 feet long.
Yep.
Sat down, put this puzzle together. It was very fun, very cool. I'd never seen anything like it. So it was in the spirit of the quarter bin, because it truly was just this random find for cheap and was a lot of fun. Batman 298.
It's one story it's telling.
Yeah, it is. It's
okay. This isn't I'm looking. This isn't a montage. This is all just one thing.
It's like it's an action sequence from Batman 298, and I don't think it's 100%. And some of the things are shifted around a little bit so they fit in the long form. But very cool colors. I need the Superman one now, so that is my quarter.
The Superman one you can get for $178 or best offer.
That's more. That's more dollars.
Well, if you have a promo with a coupon code, you can get it for $140.
That's not bad. This is shocking to me though, because I've been going into comic book stores for like 40 years at this point, and have never seen anything. I've never seen this puzzle before. I've never seen any of these Oh So Long puzzles before, and it was kind of surprising to be surprised like that. So it was very cool. Now
you thought you had seen everything.
Possession. I did. I thought I'd seen everything. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I think we've reached the end of our annual journey through the comics we've been reading. I am still going strong over on This Endorian Life with my co-host Steve Rudd. You can catch Eric regularly on Previously on X-Men, where you are about midway through X-Men 97 at this point.
We're about to talk about episode 5 of 10. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Oh, yeah, and you.
So long.
Okay, bye.